Hello sports fans, Shalthis here. I am bringing you a bit of a special episode of ShoutStone today where I kind of want to take you behind the scenes a little bit here. What you are looking at is my replay folder, part of it, of course. And the game that you just saw the shoutcast of yesterday was a 3v3 featuring Cosmic Aftershock. And that was this game right here that you see highlighted. So what I'm actually going to show you, it's a little bit of time travel. You're going to watch me make that video. I'm not going to show you the whole process, but what I want to show you first is mainly how I create the video that I shoutcast from. And this is kind of how it works. So first thing I want to do is, load into the profile. Just get everybody kind of set up there and loaded in. But really what I'm doing with this is shooting the footage that I will then cast off of. After I get that footage together, then I can watch it, record my shoutcast, and edit it all together in the nice complete package. Now, the part after that, where I edit it all together and actually do the cast, you're not going to see that. Just because it's not really necessary. All you're really going to see here is just me doing this shoutcast, or preparing this video. So I'll show you kind of what the game is like when I do that. So first, we've got the scoreboard up, game's ready to go, we've got this angle, and we're going to hit play. So what I do is wait for the kickoff. I'm going to pause it there, because this is the point where I switch camera angles. So now, I want to go to this angle. This is my first shoutcast on Utopia Stadium, so I'm hoping it goes well. Go to this angle, and start getting some footage. So now, they're going to go up on the wall. I'm going to do a hard cut over to here. I think this shot's good. Goes down there. We're going to move over to this wall. If I pass through the wall, it's no problem. I can see it fine on that side, just not on the other side. Anyway, back to watching. And this is really what it's like, I try to keep the ball in as best position as I can, but whenever I do a fast move like that, I try to, pause it and then go back. And what you're going to see me do when we actually get into the editing is I am going to cut out all these segments where I am moving around like this. So it will look, and as you've seen on my previous casts, it will look like a nice little seamless broadcast. And I'll talk about some of the tricks I use when editing. Well, not really tricks, but I'll tell you about kind of what I do when editing to make it seamless and to avoid any kind of time discrepancy, really. Okay, so I'm going to get... Sometimes what I'll do is try to get like a neat little camera angle here. So I think I'm going to park the camera right in this little corner and watch a little bit from there. Just to get some interesting stuff. And once Kronovi cleared the ball out there, we're going to move back to center. And follow the ball around. Sad Jr. sets up Kronovi, ball's up high, here comes Sad Jr. And there's the first goal. So, as you can see, what I did is after that happened, I paused the game right as the cars reset. I take back to center frame here, to center for kickoff. Try to get this as straight as possible. And then we go. I'm not too concerned about this particular shot, only because this shot is so small next to, because when you're watching this thing, the replay is going, so there's not a lot to see. Sometimes I will move the camera, like actually move its base position, but only slightly and only a little tiny bit, because I really just care about you know, kind of having the shot in a good position. So from here, we're going to go back down. And let's take the corner shot from this goal. Alright, ball's out of frame. So I'm going to pull back, I think, to about here. Looks pretty good. Maybe a little farther back. Or here. This will give me a little bit of maneuverability. So this is a very bright arena. And it is the first game I've cast here. Alright, I'm going to switch over to this perspective now. So I'm just trying to get an idea of what the best angles are to do here. You know, some of the positioning can be a little bit awkward because of how the bloom effect is going and the lighting's going and everything like that. I'll park myself right up here. I think this is good. Okay, ball gets cleared downfield, so I want to move up a bit. I think I'll move to about here. This looks good. But it gets a little tricky. You know, I want to keep a good angle on the action. And I want to try to avoid moving the camera too harshly, but sometimes, you know, you got to do what you got to do in order to keep up with everything. And sometimes your controller acts a little overzealous when you're trying to move around. But it's alright. Now there's a reason I do a lot of moving. You know, I don't like to keep a static camera for too long. And that's really because I like the dynamic camera. I like being in the thick of the action, which I think is important to make the games exciting and fun to watch. You know, a hard static cam can be fine at times, but other times it's nice to get a new perspective. Sometimes I do this too. I have to make a abrupt change after already making a change, you know? Here, let's get a good in goal shot. I think we might get something nice here. I want to tuck this in the back of the goal and put the camera right there. That's the problem with this particular arena, is it's impossible to see through the goal like you can on a lot of other arenas. But I really wanted to do this just so I could kind of show you what it's like when I prepare for my YouTube shoutcasts. You know, I put a lot of work into those videos. I try to make the, you know, events interesting, the perspectives interesting. I try to get you down really into the thick of action as best I can. Alright, I paused there. I don't know if I really wanted to pause there, but it happened. So we'll just move up a little bit. Keep a good angle on the net. I try to keep the net in frame whenever there's an offensive attack going, because you never know when somebody's going to make a move. Alright, so again, we got a goal. Now you'll notice I don't shoot the replays yet. Replays all come at the end of the game. And you'll see how I do that very shortly. So now we go back to kickoff. Fortunately, the clock doesn't move on the kickoff, so I am able to kind of trim down that early, you know, when I unpause the game to when it actually, you know, things start happening. I can kind of trim that down a little bit if I want to. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I don't because it's only on that little small live window while the replay is going. And I kind of want to make sure that any of the solid action and edits are being saved for the full screen. So here's something I'm going to do. A really quick cut into the goal just to see this here. Ball gets cleared away. I'm going to cut back out and back to a high cam. I'll park this one right above the goal so we can see what happens. Gibbs with the clear, so that's going to give me a move to the center. Now, let's get in on goal for this, because this could be nice. Maybe a goal will happen here. I honestly don't know. I know what the scores are, but I don't know when the goals happen. Of course, I cut out a goal right as the final goal happens, but that's okay, because I can get some better perspectives on the replays. And that's all that really matters. If my replay's got to look good if my direct shot is not good. So what I'm probably going to do here, since we're down to the final 10 seconds, is just stick to a hard cam. No more bonus edits. Okay, and the game's over. Perfect. So now I am going to get my replays. And to do that, I'm going to bounce to each goal. Alright, so there's my first goal. It's on this net here. So let's just take a look at it really quick. How do I want to do it? I think in net for this one should be fine. So, come on, rewind. Only very slight movements on replays. And I see it all the way through, then I pause it after the things reset. I know that every goal is going to be over here, so I want to jump to the next one. So let's see who scores it. I think it's Gibbs. It is. Okay, so we're going to rewind a little bit. I wanted to get a scope for what Gibbs does on this goal. Okay. That's actually pretty good. So I'm going to bounce back a bit. I want to get... Oops. Hit the wrong button. There we go. Okay. I want... on Gibbs. I want to just kind of see if I can get a first-person perspective here. No, it didn't look good at all. Okay. That's alright. This could be good. We'll get a nice tight shot on Gibbs as he comes in for the goal. And we'll use that. And there's the replay. Cool. Okay. So now, we want something else. I want to go back to flying off of the hard shot. Last goal. Last goal came pretty late in the game. Oh, I know what I want to do. I had a nice little shot that I've been practicing, just kind of a slow zoom in on the goal. And, that's Crinoli, so. Alright, I think that'll work. So there's my replays. Now what I want to do is I need to grab my image for the end of the video. Which means I gotta fast forward all the way to the end and do this. I just need to grab a little bit of this footage, but this is going to give me some time to talk about, you know, everybody's final game stats. And that's what I want to do. So, okay, perfect. So now, this part is done. So what I'll be doing at this point is bringing this into Premiere and cutting some stuff together. So I'm going to take a break at this point, and I will see you back in Premiere. Alright, folks. Welcome back. So, now we're in Premiere, and this is where I start making the magic happen. So, there are two pieces to this edit. At least two major pieces. I'll get into the rest of it. Everything here, this is all the files that I use for a lot of the edits that I put together. I know they're not sorted. That's my own thing, whatever. I probably should sort them into folders. It might look a little better, but that'll come a little later. Anyway, for now, there's two things that I have imported that I'm going to need to put into this sequence to actually start editing from. So I have my voiceover, which I recorded into a separate audio file. I'm not going to use that for the video that you're watching now, or the video that I'm editing now, because that would be silly. But I also have this, which is the actual video. Now this is the video that I recorded, not only for the video you're watching right now, but also for the game. Now one thing you'll notice is that it's cut off, because my capture thing records in 1080p, but my videos are in 720. I do that for size purposes, but I might make the change to 1020 or 1080 in the future. But for now, we're gonna have to shrink it. So, what do I have to do? Well, first off, I gotta find the point where I make things go live, and things go live when the ball starts to appear. So with that, this is where I go live. I'm gonna cut that excess off. Cut that, bring it back here, and now we can actually begin the process. So this is where the game begins. What I need to do is add my overlay, which is the little graphic that goes around the scoreboard. Again, my overlay was made for 1080, so I've got to shrink it down so it fits. And there we go. There's my overlay. It's got my logo on it. That makes sure that all of my footage has my logo on it. And I'll extend it all the way to the end of the footage, even though I know I'm not going to need all of it. But at this point, what I want to do is start figuring things out. Now, this is how I do these cuts to the camera. And this is going to be a little bit dull, I'm sure. But what I want you to notice is, if you're going to gain anything out of watching me do this, because this is more for educational purposes, I suppose, and less entertainment. But you'll see how, you know, every frame advances the footage forward, but there's a point where the footage stops. Like right here. That tells me that's where my pause is. So here, I want to pause it on this frame, and I got to make a cut in the footage. So now, I know that that's where the cut is. I need to find where I pick up the new frame from. Okay, so it's right there. So now what I need to do, and this is where things, my tip for editing is. Now, this is the frame, and I can tell by bouncing it back and forth between the last two frames and having no change, and these two frames and having a change, that this is where I start playing again. I don't want to include this frame in the edit, because this is the one that should logically take place after the cut. So it's a one frame difference, but I deliberately don't do that because I don't want the time to be skewed at all and have some seconds feel longer than others. I wasn't thinking about that when I first tried doing this multicam edit, and I don't know if it threw it off at all, if anybody ever noticed, but I noticed. So now what I'll do is look at the actual cut, and you can probably hear some of the audio from in the game as it happens. But there you go, a nice smooth cut away from kickoff, and that lets me go ahead a little further, and I wait for the next pause. So there's the next pause, right up here, and I always look for something in the footage that I can track and see, like, where does it stop moving. So right now I'm using this little orange car here. So there's my cut point. That's where it stops. I'm going to cut the footage there. We'll bounce forward. There's my live point. So, all right, now, again, I don't want that one. I want that one. And this is what it's like, you know? Another cut is going to be coming up soon here, yeah. I'm going to show you what I do when it's goal time, because that's when the things start to get a little interesting, and I have to be a little more mindful of what I'm cutting and where I'm putting things, because I set up. I don't do replays on the spot, but I set out their points, like where the replays are going to happen. So I will show you exactly where those take place when we get there. Now, my rule for when I'm in game and making these pauses is when I see that most of the action is taking place so far out of frame that the nameplates are no longer being rendered. That's the point where I know that I have to, you know, move in. So here's a little tricky, because there's not a lot of movement going on. So I have to grab it. Yeah, this is the point, right there. So I just try to look for any point where I see that everything has stopped. And that's good. Excellent. Alright, we'll grab that frame. Perfect. And this is what it's like. It's a bit of a long process, but I put the time in because, you know, like I said, I want to make the best Rocket League videos I can. I know that I'm never gonna be the best when it comes to montages. I'm never gonna be the best when it comes to like overly produced play videos or goal videos or any of those fancy top plays things. I know I'm not gonna be able to do that stuff. But I do know that when it comes to shoutcasts, for a one-man operation, I will be the best I can be. Alright, and you know, that's the goal. Make it as good as I can. So now, and you've already seen, we've been at this for, what, 7 minutes or so now? And I'm 30 seconds through this video. But that's what the editing life is like. It is slow. It is deliberate. Fortunately, I know the stuff that I'm trying to do, so it makes it a little easier for me to kind of make stuff happen. I know like exactly the type of stuff I'm looking for in the footage to cut from, to cut to, so I can typically move through this a little faster. I'm going a bit slow because I'm actually talking about it as well, so that tends to make things a little bit slower. But I do use my keyboard shortcuts. You kind of have to when you're doing this sort of stuff, else you'll be, I don't know, wasting unnecessary time on, you know, just going up to the tool window and clicking. I don't even have my tools window open because I don't need it. But, you know, I don't want to waste that kind of time. So I've learned the two major shortcuts I need, is really just C and V. But that's it. And the reason that I mean, there's an obvious reason why I recorded my video, my audio footage on a different program than this. And that was because we've got, you know, the in-game audio, which is what I want for the actual casting video, because I'm ultimately going to import this video into Premiere, this final video, once it's done, into Premiere to then go alongside my voiceover for the actual cast. So, like what I'm doing here, this video that I'm cutting together right now, is exactly what I will be referencing when I do my shoutcast, so that it all syncs up nicely. There's no weird timing issue or anything like that. And I think I just broke my own rule of making the cut. I did. It should be that frame. See? When I'm talking and not paying attention, I make little mistakes like that. But, yeah, I mean, I wish I had a lot more to say on this. It's a very straightforward process at this point. When it gets to the first goal, okay, good, here we go. So now that we're on the first goal, I can show you what I do at this point. I'm going to do something actually a little bit different here, because I want to keep that horn for the audio. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take it all the way to the final frame of the goal before it resets. We're going to cut that. And I want that horn. so I'm going to cut this. And now I'm going to take this little piece of footage that I did, I'm going to right click and I'm going to unlink it so that the video and audio are separate. And I'm going to get rid of the video, drag the audio down, and hopefully this will look okay. So now what I want to do is I want to cut out this bit in the middle here where I'm setting up the center shot. This can take a little bit. But okay, so I want to find, there's where the actual kickoff happens. Let's go back a little bit. We'll cut that out. Now, I'm going to drag this to tap right up against where the goal happens. And that means I want to cut there, where the goal happens. And then I'm going to add a replay into there. So I know that that's where this cut happens. But let's just watch this really quick. I want to make sure the audio doesn't sound too weird. Just enough that we can still hear the goal horn even when we reset. That's pretty good. So I think what I want to do, oops, I didn't want to cut that. I'm going to actually fade this audio out when the horn ends to make it blend a little smoother with the background. So we're just going to fade it out. Okay, that's pretty good. I like the sound of it. Alright, so now we got the kickoff. This one I paused really early after the kickoff. So there's Kronovi, there's his final frame. We'll cut that and we will swoop this up. Actually, you know what? One thing I do want to do before I continue cutting these things into pieces, I have to move this footage up a bit. In fact, I have to move it up to there. Reason being is that when I start doing the replay video is going to go right below here, and then my little blue background is going to go on video 1. So you'll see what I mean when we get to that point. But continuing this audio gives me a little bit of a visual indicator of where the replay needs to go. So that will help. So now, let's keep making our cuts. That's all there is to it. We'll tell you what I'll do. Let's make a pause right now. When I come back, I'll have all of the cuts done, and then I'll show you how I edit the replays. Alright, so we'll break right now, and we'll come back in just a little bit. Alright, so I just finished cutting out all of my replays, and I also finished the main cut on the video itself. So now what I'm going to show you how I do, or what I do, is add the replays into the full video. So, first thing I need is, oops, notepad. I need this. These are my replay settings. I'm just going to stick them on another monitor because I don't want to get them in the way. But basically, it's just a notepad file that I have all of the particular settings that I need to fit video into the replays with, or the replay frame. So I'll show you what I mean. But first, here's my replays. I got replay 1, 2, 3, and this is the scoreboard at the end. So there's all my necessary files. I'm going to cut them. We're going to go back here. As you can see, my replays are marked off by the little audio change that I made, so I know where the first replay goes. So all I want to do is change this to video 2 so that when I paste, they all show up there. So there we go. I'll grab those 3, we'll cut them. Now we want to go to... Now really what I'm doing right now is just roughly placing where the video needs to go. I haven't synced anything up, I haven't done any kind of special adjustments or anything. I'm literally just sticking this video in the roughest location where it needs to go. Okay, so let's start with the first replay file. So first thing I need to do, obviously I want to sync it up with the cut here, because the cut is where it goes from replay back to live footage. So with that in mind, oops, I have a lot of audio layers, anyway, or video layers. So what I need to do here is, what I first want to do is I'm going to cut this live footage at the end of the replay. It's going to make making like setting my settings a little easier. One thing I neglected to do, and I typically do it at the beginning, is I add the 3D effect, which is what I need, this basic 3D effect, to any replay file, because it has to be adjusted. But anyway, the overlay I will also remove from this section, and what I'm going to put in there instead is the replay frame, which is, of course, that guy. So I put my replay frame in, got it in a good spot. So now what I need to do is add my... Well, I can do it a different way. I can add my transitions now, or I can adjust the videos now. So I'll show you how I adjust the videos, so what you can see kind of what they look like. Now this is the live footage, so it goes in the smaller frame, which means I have to set it to that position, that scale, and now I adjust the 3D. 5% swivel, -5 degree tilt. And there we go. It fits nicely in this little perspective frame. Looks great. I also need to do it to the second half of this. So same thing. 1011, 566, 25 degrees, 5, 7, oops, -7, and we're done. So now that should, yeah. So there's the cut. I checked this just to make sure that the cut is smooth and the video hasn't moved. And it hasn't. Great. Let's go to the replay. Now, as you can see, the replay doesn't have any audio. I did the unlink, and I took the audio out and got rid of it, so that it's not going to interfere with any of the audio here. So now we have to set this one up. This one's 510, 292, 58.5. That just happened to be the one that worked. Oh, and I have to add the 3D effect, of course. So here, it is -10% swivel, 5 degree tilt, and I have to add a distance to image of 17. The reason is, when you use this 3D tool, it still keeps the rectangular, like the perfectly straight rectangular frame of a widescreen video, and what it can do is actually cut off, like it'll just sort of crop this corner out. And that's what it was doing to me. It was just cropping the corner right off. So I just had to set the distance to image back, and it looks fine. So there we go. So now the replays are in their frame. It's going to pop back to normal when the replay is over. So we can kind of see a little bit of stuff here. So if I can do this, we've got that lovely replay audio. The horn doesn't get cut off. I would normally not care about the horn, but because it's such a loud and elaborate horn, and it'd be very obvious if it got cut off on this particular arena, we're going to leave it in. So now, add my blue background on a video 1, and that's where you get this. So beautiful. So now what I need to do is add my transitions. So the transition comes in 2 pieces. The first piece is the actual transition, which is this guy, and I need to be able to sync this up so that the transition happens at the right point. So there's that, and I gotta go through it frame by frame, and that's exactly what I want. Like what you're seeing here, this frame here should be the last frame of the previous video, and this frame here should be the first frame of the next one. That's a perfect setup. I'm usually not so frame precise with it. I just need to make sure it visually looks good. So like I can hit play, we get that, boom, nice transition, looks fine. But it's missing something, the swoosh. So I add my swoosh file. So that way it should sound and look like this. Beautiful. So that sounds great. And you got the horn playing, so it sounds like it's still going in the arena when we're going back to live. And that looks great. So the reason that I cut the live footage in this arbitrary spot, despite the fact that I'm not deleting anything or changing anything, is because the settings for this, I would have had to go in here and kind of set keyframes and then advance a single frame forward and change it back to the normal settings. And it just adds a lot of unnecessary work. So by just adding that little cut, it considers this a separate video file, and it will just pop back to full size. But again, I need to add my transition. So again, we do the same thing. Add my video part here. This might be a little off. Yeah, so you can see this one's a little bit off, but it's not so far off that I care. I'm not going to do a frame perfect transition here, but you really won't be able to tell when it's playing. So I go back to there, swoosh, it's back. If you go through it frame by frame, you can tell, but if you're just watching it in real time, no one's going to notice, because at that point, you're probably still staring at the replay or something, and you're not really looking at the lower corner. So again, I don't care, and of course, gotta add the swoosh. So, boom, there's the swoosh. Okay, so we got that one done. Now let's move up to the second replay, and the same process happens again. I gotta set this replay so it's linked up right in line with this cut. And now I need to cut both this and that. You can see that I don't have to be too precise with the cut tool, because it will always kind of snap to either existing cuts on lower video layers, or it will sync right up with this, the seeker line. So I can just put this where I want to make the cut, and then just click generally near it, and it will make the cut right on the line. That's how I can also do the, like, cutting to different video angles so quickly. That helps a lot. But okay, so here we go. Same as before. I gotta make these settings. And I can just do them kind of in here without really caring too much. In fact, let's go through all of these that need it. And we'll stick the 3D on. Okay, perfect. So again, 5 degrees swivel, -5 tilt. And that should put it right down there. And we'll get rid of the overlay file because I don't need that. We repeat the process one more time. So again, 5, -7, and that looks good. Let's just check the live footage. Alright, so that's strange. Oh, I guess it's just the video. Okay, never mind. Something looked like it was shifting a little bit, but it's just the video that made it look like the whole frame was moving. But no, it is fine. No worries. Alright, replay frame. Gonna stick it there. This will snap to cuts as well, and it was trying to snap to the cut in the middle there. So that's why it looked kind of weird. Okay, perfect. Now we set up the main replay itself. So what I did when I was setting up this replay design, just to kind of give you an idea of the prep that went into this, it wasn't really something significant, but it took some time. What I did is I initially took some just generic static images, and I was manually tweaking the tilt and swivel and stuff like that, just to see you know, where exactly I wanted it, and then what those settings were. And I tried to round them off to even numbers so I didn't have any like decimal points in there, because that would have been kind of unnecessary. But I did all of that, and then I layered those graphics over a bright green image. And that bright green image allowed me to design the replay frame, which it's not gorgeous, but it's effective. The focus is really on the replay itself, and I'll probably redesign that frame at some point, but not right now. I just don't want to. Don't want to put the effort in to design a replay frame that's not really noticed. So here's a good example of a bad placement. You can see that the transition is gone by the time I am even there. And that one's too early, so I gotta move it back like there. I think that's good. Yeah, that's better. Perfect. Okay. And this is what really goes into it. And this is the main reason that I try to avoid having any... This is why I try to avoid casting games that have a ton of goals in them for YouTube, and I save those for the stream because of this. This is such a long, drawn-out process, especially when you get into the individual goals. You have to do all this extra, or I have to do all this extra editing to try to make it look good. So it can take a while. But again, we got one more to go, and then we are good. So here's something I'm going to take a look at. I got this replay file. I'm actually going to turn off here so I can just watch the replay for a second. It's got this little bit of extra that would require me to cut this clip. So I think what I'm going to do instead is drag this back here so that it's syncing up to this cut. And then I think, yeah, I can get rid of this little bit of extra. It's not really necessary. So, cool. I'm going to get rid of that. Cut the overlay. Junk that out. Bring in my replay frame. Stick that guy in there. And then we will position once again. Oh, I need to add 3D for the last time. Last goal, so the last time I have to do all this adjustment. I don't have to do any of this when I finish the cast. Like, the editing that I do after I finish doing my shoutcast is really simple. And there's really not much involved in it at all. So, a lot of it's just kind of timing up some footage, timing up like the transitions and also the video recording, and making sure that the chroma key effect is good for the green screen. That part, it's not really that interesting. It's really just adjusting a single number until the background's gone on chroma key. That's it. That's why I'm not including that part of it, because it's just kind of dull, and it would just add a bunch of extra time that really isn't necessary. But, yeah, so there we go. There's my replay, and let's get the final round of transitions in. Well, not quite the final round. I'll show you what I mean when I get there. But, yeah, that one's way off again. Check here. Perfect. That one's fine. One more. That one's a little off. So, I mean, this is really what I do. You know, whenever I do these shoutcasts, I put this kind of effort into every video. Like this is, I haven't even started the cast part yet. And here's an interesting thing. Now, there's a reason that my swoosh sound is so long and why it stretches out so much. There is kind of extra audio that starts to get really hard to hear when the game audio kicks in. So I just leave it there because I'd rather it gracefully fade out instead of being abruptly cut. But when I have to do that, when the true transitions are so close and the swooshes have to be really close, I can cut off a little bit and you wouldn't know. So there's that. And then this is going to run till the very end, and there's where the replay file ends. So I leave a little bit of extra time on the freeze frame, just so I have a nice transition. So now, here is my final replay. In fact, I think what I'm actually going to do here... no, you know what? I'll put the... we'll just do it here. This is fine. I want... my transition. Alright, let's go back a little bit. Has to go back a couple frames more. No problem. That's good. Okay, perfect. Final transition's done. Now I gotta stick this guy right here, because this is my scorecard. So, as far as the scoreboard goes, I actually tend to put this at full frame. Then what I do is I will drop it down. Right there, I think is good. I want to put it at a point where you can't see the scoreboard, because then what I can do is put in my logo. Because I want my logo to be right above the scoreboard in a pretty decent size, little overlap, just like that. Perfect, not a ton of effort, really smooth cut there. And it looks great. But here's my thing. I need to make this clip last. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to frame hold it. Doesn't matter where I frame hold it, it's the same frame all throughout the video. And then set the duration. I'm going to set this duration for probably a minute 10 of just that frame. I give it a lot of extra because when I import this into the final project, if I need more, I can add more. If I need less, I can crop it. No big deal. But this will hold all throughout till the very end. And that's it. That is the video. So this is done. This I will then cast off of and cut into the original video, which you have already seen. But that's the gist of it, man. Like, there's not a lot more to it. I hope this was educational. If you have any questions about my process or how I set the shots up or anything like that that I didn't answer in this video, let me know. Leave a comment below. I will gladly respond to you. If you found this informative, let me know. You know, share it with anybody else who you know is trying to figure out how to edit or add some, you know, new tips and stuff like that. But that's all of it, man. So thank you all so much for watching what I'm sure has been a very long video. But with that being said, I will see you all next time.